What's going on, guys? Bladezilla here, and today got another cool one from Shirogorov. This is the Shirogorov Stellar M390 in blue anodizing. So if you guys remember, they obviously first came out with a couple different versions of this in the custom division / sprint run world, and then they the first version of this they ever came into the production side was an S90V Stellar with a bit of a blue tinge to it. So a little bit different than this, but still, it was blue. And I believe I did a video on that one. So, take a look on the channel. It'll be in the Shirogorov playlist. Just search Stellar. And if you see another blue one, that will be the first production Stellar. That's not what we have today. This is a full production, blue, M390 Stellar. So, super cool knife that we're going to take a look at today. As a reminder, a lot of the knives featured on this channel are available in my store, Bladezilla.ca, which is right here. And everything that's shown in stock is available in Canada, ready to go. It's not crossing the border. I'll also ship down to the US. And as we see right here, we've got an M390 Blue Stellar. So there you go. So I've got a stack of each of these, and apparently someone just bought a SOCOM. That's great. Anyway, so there you go. Bladezilla.ca, and get your hands on one of these guys before they're gone, because they're small batch, small production runs, and it's great to show the knife, do a video on it, and do some comparisons. I believe I have, I've got a couple different colors of this one that I'll do some comparisons on today as well. So sit back, relax, fill up a beer, cup of coffee, whatever time of day it is, enjoy something with it, and we'll get started here. So, super cash, don't worry too much about it. I'll make mistakes, as is life. Alright, so we are coming in at 8 1/4, I'd say, inches. And I'm not doing this with a spec sheet, guys, so just if I'm off, don't stress about it. 8 1/4 inches, blade length of 3 5/8, and I thought this one was 85 mils. Could be wrong, but I thought it was 85, or was it 90 mil blade? Anyway, 3 5/8 with a handle of 4 5/8, 4.5, something like that. There you go. Pretty cool. Really good all-around size. In terms of where that fits in the Shirogorov lineup, well, let's grab an F95, or a Hattie in this case, aka a carbon front scaled version of the F95. And let's find our neon. Where's my neon 0? You've probably seen these guys on the channel for quite a while now. And as a reminder, I'll try to line the pivots up, but as a reminder, I do shoot down at an angle so that a light can come down from above and hit these guys. So if I flip these guys around, it will substantially change your perspective on the sizing. But I would say this is more in tune with the actual sizing if you were to look at things. So full size, right? 95 mil blade, carbon handle, M390 Stellar. It's right in the middle, sweet spot. These are all M390. And then a neon 0 that's been modified. The Hydro Neon, you've probably seen these. They do lottery runs on Recon 1. Seems every few months. If you become available, they're all one-offs. And I got this one. You probably, if this is your first time seeing this channel, I got this one and I use it as my comparison. Geez, for the last, 6-8 months. It's been around forever. Super great knife, great size. But traditionally, and there's one more size up. So there's a 111, which is even bigger, which I don't have a production one of right now. But traditionally, it's always been F95 or Hattie or neon. And, the Stellar is just such a nice sweet spot, middle ground between the two, that a lot of people are really liking it. And not only that, when they went to the Stellar production, they added a bunch of really cool features like captive pivot, and I believe it has an apron on it. And it's got a lot of the cool technologies that a lot of the newer custom division and sprint run knives, the new technologies, and they just bring it down to a level that's, attainable for most. And I will say this, no one is doing this level of detail on any of these knives at this price point. That's my word of the day. In terms of other ones, well, we're going to flop around. There's your Kami Special Edition. We'll grab a Talmeo Dr. Death. Another Shirogorov limited edition. What else do I have access to my grippy little paws? I've got a Russian Overkill floating around here as well. Another cool knife. I've got a Bio, light and dark, but I'll just show one. I believe that is the dark because the pivot is not blue. What else do you want to look at? We got a Quantum Blue here. Another super sick knife. Just for an anodizing comparison, I think that one's pretty cool. You can kind of see the difference between a stone wash and more of a, a polish to it. We've got the Hattion as well, still kicking around. Which is, once again, now we're reversing the sizes up the screen, and we can do that. Let's swap things around and look at it the other way. I actually really like having the two blue anos side by side. That's a nice little comparison to kind of see overall just the changes in size. It's pretty cool, and color and whatnot, so that's cool. I showed the Kami. They're going to put these guys away here. And I guess logically, my Stellar that I've been using for my videos is right here. So there's and I've got another Stellar here that I've got to just quickly get. And we're going to show all three colors of the Stellar, and I believe all three have been available now for, I think the blue and the bronze came out at the exact same time. So these are all readily available, but not a huge change in color between the bronze and the Thai. The bronze, obviously, they've had the Stellar Touch. Now, if you've seen that, that was another, where did that one come out from? Was that a CCKS knife? I can't remember if that was yeah, I think it was a CCKS knife in February this year, and they did a kind of a bronze color to it. Now, this guy, I don't have a huge, I've got a huge light on it, but this one really shines in the sun and just looks really, really good. But I thought I figured, you know what, between this and the Stonewash Thai, they are very subtle, right? And you can kind of just see, if I go side by side, the differences between the two. It is subtle. It is very subtle. But you kind of get the idea. One's just a little bit bronzier. Pretty cool. Overall, it's just what's your flavor of the day. Both look very, very good. The blue is the standout for me in terms of it just looks completely different than the other two. And there's a good little comparison. Now, the light's obviously reflecting on the standard Stellar Thai, and if I flip these guys around, maybe it'll change the gold. I'm always trying to show you guys how things change ever so slightly. But both look really good. They're just different, just a little bit different. So pretty cool, but we're not here to see, this and this, or maybe you are. I don't. Maybe I'll zoom in and just give you one final little shot of that before I zoom back out here. If you guys do care, I'll probably take some photos and line up the little bears for an Instagram post at some point. I think it looks cool, and it's one of my favorite features on this knife that it's not on the blade like a lot of the other production knives. I think it just looks really, really cool. So anyway, that's the comparison between a few of them. So we're going to get rid of those. Not rid of them, but we're going to put those away and focus more on the blue. I'm going to do a video on the bronze because my commitment here to you guys is that I want to always do a video on any of the new releases or any of the new colors of some of these knives, and some of them just go so fast they're hard to get, like custom division knives, so they usually take longer for me to actually track down, but most production knives I'm fairly consistent with getting my hands on. So I'd like to do a separate video on the bronze, and then today we're going to do the blue, and then that way I can catalog this video inside the actual store link, and you can find it that way. So let's get started on the blue. So I already done the measurements. I guess the main thing here is that, we still have a stone-washed base to the knife, and it looks really, really sharp. I'm a big fan of stonewash because it kind of hides the nicks and dings and scratches and cuts and whatever just from being in your pocket. And the beauty of ano is that, ano's permanent. It's not going anywhere. If we focus down on the back spacer itself, there's a really nice contrast between the sides, right? The two colors, which I believe should match the clip and the pivot, right? But that back spacer is just a nice, once again, kind of a stone wash, and it just looks so good. Contrasts really well with the rest of the knife. And that's what I think makes the blue so nice, just having that balance. These are not individually numbered other than the SKU that is on the box. And reminder, there's no marking on the knife that matches the box, nothing like that on these. Those are just simple SKUs. Sometimes you can open these up and there is a counted number, but they do not match. And some people seem to think that they should, but it's not the case. This is not a custom division. It is not a special edition. It is not a spring run or a collaboration piece, which is what I showed earlier, the Kami, the Dr. Death, etc. Those are all labeled, the bios. They're all individually numbered. These are production. Now, I think that, the fancy knives being the ones I just mentioned, they're at a different level than production knives. And with that comes a completely different price point. But, here's the big but. These are not bad at all. The Shiro world, these are absolutely incredible value for what you're getting. For, I think these are $1,150 table. Doesn't matter the color, they're all the same currently in 2024. That may change if you're watching this a year down the road, but incredible value. So these guys come stock with multi-row bearings, and if we don't know, multi-row bearings is a little bit of a premium upgrade from the single-row bearings found on a lot of the base model knives, or some of the base model knives, which seems to be cycling out and kind of changing now. Anyway, single-row bearings would be like this, balls in a track, okay? Multi-row bearings would be like pinwheel of 3 balls in a row, kind of around that track, or sometimes 2 on the Neon. So what's the big advantage there? Does it feel any different? Yeah, they feel a little bit different. The main difference would be the interface between the handle and the blade in its side-to-side kind of stability, spreading out the load more. That's what she said. Just kidding. All jokes aside, it just makes it a little different, but just smoother. The Shirogorovs, they are known to float home. Floating home means that if I park this guy at a ridiculous angle and I put it up, say like there, they do not drop. With a little bit of a bump, they will go. It's just, it's a truly unique experience on action referring to the feel of the smoothness of the bearings, and the blade, and the handle, everything, how it syncs and works together. The Shiros are just a very unique feel. Now, I have seen for a while now, a lot of these out of the box, the bolts kind of oppose each other, the two hardwares, and they're starting to not come matched all the time. So I don't know if that's something that they were doing intentionally and they just changed that, but like for example, this one, they're not perfectly opposing, so maybe it's just now they're coming clocked at whatever angle, but I have seen that. So just pay attention. Now, the beauty of this one, if we're looking at the actual milling on the knife for a production model, it's terrific, and it's also through the roof. All the way around, you're seeing different angles, and a spot like this, I would take the lens and take the macro lens and take a close-up on that, because it's just a really cool transitional spot. Same with up on the top here, where you have horizontal milling and vertical milling that meet right on the corner there. That's a cool location, and I think when Shirogorov teased this knife, that was actually the spot that they were showcasing. And rightfully so, it just looks so good. It's absolutely littered with all these little Easter eggs kind of all throughout here. Just beautiful milling. The angles itself now, for comparing this, pay attention to the front flat. Kind of look how it, that portion. Comparing this to a Stellar Touch. The Touch I found was a little thinner down the middle and carried a little thinner than this. Just for reference. I think both fit and feel fantastic in hand. And but that one is, if you have a bigger hand and you're worried about the size of this, maybe look at the Touch, because it just carries a little thinner. In terms of the blade itself, I've always said, this guy's kind of got that really cool you know, cockpit, like F-16 kind of vibe going on that blade, and the bear is no longer on the handle. And if we're curious what that is, I'm going to grab a knife that I probably have the bear on it still. Let's grab the, here's a blue Quantium. So there's the bear that I'm talking about. Anytime you can get that off the cutting edge, to me, is a complete win, especially on a knife that in a production environment would typically be a user, right? And there's another one, right? So they've always done that, and then on the back they flip and they put the steel there. It's pretty cool. Whereas on this guy, it is absent. She gone. Instead, we get it now on the back of the handle here, which is beautiful. It's kind of anodized and etched in the anode. It looks really, really nice. Really, really nice. And on the flip side, we still have M390, but if you even go down the line of their customs and custom division knives, they still put it on the blade there. In some circumstances, they don't. They will actually put it kind of inside here. But typically, it's still on the blade. Nice, detent, smooth knife. Flipping it around and looking at the clip, we can see another kind of horizontal milling that's just beautiful and gorgeous all the way around. Just done so well. And then the beauty of this one is that milling is completely underneath the clip, and if you look under the clip, it's another, you know, if you were to take this off, it's just another beautiful canvas of milling. It looks fantastic. And then once again on the back here, the horizontal milling. And then the different colored pivot, which looks good. Now I've had some questions about guys buying some knives that, you know, some of them loosen off from the factory, which is pretty common. You know, things loosen off because they're not Loctited. And they're asking, well, what do I use to tighten that? You know, like realistically, you could use a penny, but you're going to scratch things up. You know, the key is to use something that's going to be less hard than the hardware, or I guess the handle as well, as to avoid scratches. You know, realistically, you should be getting the tool. The pen tool, the cyber tool, custom division tool is a stretch for production, but they are out there. And with that, you have bits that match these things. Can you get away with a penny? Yes. Can you get away with a folded credit card? Yes. Do I recommend it? In a pinch, yeah. But you realistically should get the tool. If you're going to invest this kind of money in a knife, there's really no need why you should you know, you should cut corners on the tool, because yeah, it's a piece of art and you don't want to scratch it up. Although at the end of the day, it is a production knife and they are meant to be carried and used, and they're terrific for that. So may as well have the right tool. Back to the hardware. On the front, obviously, we have the two Shiro bits, small and large. And on the flip side, we've got the blanks, which is cool. Right? It's a nice, good eye line there. It is their Apron Lock, or liner lock, depending on what you want to call it. But it is inside, it's not a frame lock, so very lefty, comfortable. And once again, the detail on that locking mechanism there is just next level. Another really cool area that I like to showcase on macro photos. It just looks so good. This guy is also hollowed out and skeletonized all over the place, which just looks redonkulous. Which I'm not going to get into because my little light is somewhere in the house that I don't have right beside me. But anyway, it's all skeletonized with pockets of like trapezoids and squares and whatnot, rectangles, to create balance, which I will show my best that I can here. There you go. Right on the holding spot behind the choil. So just really balanced, really nice knife. In terms of the centering here, you know, it is the gold standard for me. And look at how close we're getting on that. These are hand-ground blades, so I have mentioned and made note that some of them come a little shorter, some come a little longer, but generally the tolerances here are just banana lands tight, and that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And as you can kind of see, this one, does it stick out? No, not really. I think I'd be a little worried with a standoff there if they decide to go that route, because you're always wondering at what point are they going to make this knife into a more affordable package like they do on the other F95s and Quantums. So what are they going to do if they take that back spacer off, for example? Where's that blade going to go? How are they going to integrate it so that you're not poking yourself in the pocket without changing the ergonomics? I wonder how they're going to do that. And what I'm saying there is, let's grab a knife that doesn't have a back spacer. Here's an E-Knives Quantum. There's your back spacer. So typically they've put the little Bane mask on there, or the Hannibal mask, which kind of protects that blade. So maybe that would be the way they do it, because your tolerances are just really, really tight there. I could see that. But then the recent batch of F95 NLs, I think I had some crazy micartas that came in and out, and they had a standoff, and they didn't have that little triple pin there. So I'd be curious. What do you guys think? How do you think they would cover that off there on that corner without changing the design? In terms of fit in hand, it's just like all the others. It fits like a glove, no pun intended. Wraps the fingers. I find it, the Stellar itself feels more kind of like you're locked into a fit versus like an F95 where you're kind of, it's expandable to use with gloves. This just feels like my hand fits it beautifully. I've got an extra large glove size, and I've still got room for like a half finger on this, so pretty comfortable. And if I compare that with the Neon, which is the smaller knife, you can see how I still have a little on that too, but for the most part my whole hand takes up that handle. So just food for thought. And then, you know, we don't really have jimping. We do have some, but we really don't have a lot of jimping on this guy, you know. And as few people say, like, if it's a well-fit design, you don't need jimping. And I feel like my thumb just naturally rests quite nicely up on top of that little 4-pattern jimping. And if you wanted to choke up on it, well, I don't know if I would do too much. It does have a flat top on it, but it is pretty narrow, as you can kind of tell. And as we go down the blade, there's no reinforcement in terms of like an expanding tip. Nothing like that, but a nice, clean, beautiful grind, balanced throughout. Just a beautiful knife, and the blue just makes it so cool, in my opinion. And that D10 snap is just so crisp. No hot spots either. And I will say that clip just nicely kind of rests inside my palm, and it is kind of ergonomic as well, in that it's just nice and rounded for your hand. It just fits nicely. You cannot swap it from top to bottom. It is what it is, and you're not going to mount it on the other side either. But it's just nice and smooth. And in terms of a lefty, if you were to hold it that way as well, it's also nice and smooth. Your fingers kind of flop down nicely inside it as well. So that's pretty cool. It's actually a really cool design. An M390, as you guys know, is kind of like the golden standard right now, I'd say. And I know some will argue it'll be Magna Cut, but I think that's kind of changing. You know, M390 or 20 CV is kind of like the sweet spot right now for an EDC. Something you can actually use. It's going to be burly and tough. It's going to hold a good edge, and you can actually sharpen it without going through a ton of stuff. Just a beautiful knife all around. And I love looking at, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. I am filming it in 4K, but you know, there's the milling on that lock bar is just stunning. All around, a beautiful knife. And then on the other side of things, if we look at the flipper tab, we've kind of got some jimping on. It's kind of rounded. It's not just on the front. How can I show this? It's not just on the front or the top. It's just kind of rounded on the top and over. So it's just a really nice flick. And behind that flick, I'll do it slowly here. Behind this, when you do crack it down, it's all beveled on top. Hopefully you can see that. So it's just a nice smooth transition after the initial flipper flick. And there's no hot spots, no sharp edges. You're not going to flick it open and then cut yourself. You're going to have to worry about cutting yourself because of the blade instead of the handle. As I rest the blade on my hand, what am I doing? I'm crazy, eh? Oh, God. That's just so crispy smooth. Yeah, well-made knife. These are pretty easy to take apart and rebuild as well. 2 screws, comes apart. The MRBS is kind of in a stacked track design. Really easy to work on. I guess I've always wondered why the back spacer kind of stops and you can kind of just peek inside. There's a bit of a track there. I've always wondered why they gap that the way they do. And it's like that on a lot of their knives. So it must be an assembly kind of thing, I imagine. The knock on the Stellar, I guess, that I've heard from a few people, which, please, we're the only reason I'm allowed to bring this up is because we're talking about an expensive knife. If this was a few $100 less, it wouldn't even be anything to talk about. But the lanyard hole, you see through the knife, and some people see that and they're a little, oh, I shouldn't see through the knife. Aesthetically, it's unpleasing. I personally don't care. I think it's fine. It's part of the design. But if you look at some of the other production knives, like for example, this guy, they've been putting that lanyard hole as part of the back spacer, right? So they build it in, they countersink it down, and from the side, it's more pleasing to the eye. Right? And I don't know if I've done a video on this knife. I will have to do that soon. I'm sorry, I just never seem to have time for anything. But yeah, the hole in the side here, you just see through it. Whatever, big deal. How would this knife change if you built that into the back spacer? Well, it would look completely different. So you'd probably be shaving, a 1/4 inch off the top here. The carry would be different. The feel would be different. I don't know if that's the direction they want to go. I'm not a knife designer. I would assume every little detail of this has been looked over in excruciating detail and done for a complete reason with purpose. So that to me is the reason that hole's there. But I like how the bear is on the back of the handle. That to me is the win of the week. Love that. And I love they're doing that more on like the, what did I have come through? I think, was it the 111 Starship? I think it was on the back there too, or was it the Astrum? I can't remember. It just, I love seeing that they're doing that more and more. And the blue to me is a standout color. I think it just looks so sharp and so unique for Shirogorov. They don't do a lot of blue anno. I can't remember the last time they've done blue anno, other than on the first production, which to me cements the fact that that knife is going to go up in value because it's got S90V. And it's a little cleaner, it's less stone washed. It's just a cool knife. They seem to be going for, geez, 15, 16, 1700 US currently at the time of this, and I imagine it'll probably peak out pretty close to 2K because of that S90V blade. But pretty cool nonetheless. It's great to see the blue come to production with M390, and it's going to be a very hot seller, I think, for however long they do this. It could just be a quick run and 50 knives, and that's it. Don't know. But just a beautiful knife. Well, I think I've talked about everything that there really is. The fit in hand, the little mini jimping, which to me is, it'd be kind of cool if it was a little bit more, but let's be honest, it's not a big knife. You can choke up on it if you want. M390 blade, love the fighter jet window, hand ground blade as well, handmade knife. Just a real nice fit in hand, beveling beyond belief, comfortable clip, liner lock construction, M390 obviously, and titanium blue. Anode handle, back spacer, and I really like this behind there. That looks good. It's a nice little area actually, the knife, this horizontal milling around the lanyard hole. That looks good. So I think I've touched on everything that there is. Would I buy blue, bronze, or tie? Personally, well, I have a tie standard that I use for videos to compare with, and I might have to change that for a blue one. because I think the blue looks real cool. And as you know, I've got a quantum blue, and I like blue, and it's just, I don't know, it's cool. All three are incredible, though. All three are completely incredible. So take your pick. You're not going to make a bad choice. You know, the sleeper of the group, I'd say, is the bronze, because it's kind of tie. The standard tie is a workhorse, and then blue would probably maybe show some more wear in pocket, more so than standard stonewash tie. So just take your pick that way. But great knife. Well, that's it, guys. Check out Bladezilla.ca for a lot of the knives featured on this. And visit the site. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, etc. I'm always down to chat. Otherwise, have yourself a great week, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.